Neritantan. The Neritantan are fuzzy, inflatable creatures of the Abyss's third layer. These adorable little oddballs make their homes deep in the cave system, snuggled up in the chaotic tangle of plant roots that stubbornly grow wherever they please. Their bodies are flat and flexible thanks to their stretchable rib cage. When danger strikes, they puff up like living airbags by sucking in air, transforming into a bouncy fortress wall with their buddies. So good luck biting through that defense. Each Neritantan sports 4 strange nubs on their backs with unknown functions. Are they sensors? Storage? Tiny jetpacks? Nobody knows, but it adds to their charm, and their luxurious long fur is absolute blanket material. The menu of choice is the sweet, juicy Baracocha fruit, which not only keeps them fed, but also infuses their meat with mouth-watering flavor. Culinary explorers swear Neritantan dishes are some of the tastiest in the Abyss. They've got a pretty solid deal with their plant landlords too. Eat the fruit, poop the seeds, and help the plant family grow. Due to their rapid breeding habits, the third layer is practically overflowing with these puffballs. And while other subspecies of Neritantan have wandered into other layers, even the terrifying 7th one, what they're doing down there is anyone's guess. Shroombear. Shroombears are creatures native to the 4th layer of the Abyss, where brute strength alone isn't enough for survival. You also need to form strange alliances. These small, stout mammals shuffle through the undergrowth with short legs, rounded bodies, beaded eyes, and long, whip-thin tails trailing behind them like loose vines. Their large noses constantly twitch to map out the sense of the perilous terrain they call home. What sets Shroombears apart, however, is the thriving cluster of water shrooms sprouting on their back. These mushrooms aren't mere hitchhikers. They're the Shroombear's built-in life support system. When a Shroombear weakens, whether from injury, hunger, or harsh conditions of the Abyss, the water shrooms respond by releasing stored nutrients directly into its body, often reviving it from the brink of collapse. Removing these fungi severs the bond and often leads to Shroombear's death. Though they appear gentle and harmless, Shroombears have not escaped the appetites of Abyss delvers. Their meat, dark in color and rich in texture, is technically edible. However, all documented attempts to prepare it, most notably Reg's tragic culinary experiment, have ended in disaster. So yeah, no one actually knows what Shroombear tastes like. Demonfish. Demonfish are basically the fast food of the Abyss, but like the really good kind. You'll find them swimming all over the 1st to 4th layers. They're totally harmless, which is probably why they become such a go-to snack for delvers. The best ones are easy to spot. Their backs and bellies are 2 different colors. It's like nature's way of pointing out the tastiest ones. And while they do shrink the deeper you go, they still taste just as amazing. Doesn't matter if they're palm size or plate size, delvers treat them like edible treasure. Culinary-wise, demonfish are low-key celebrities, starring in dishes like Rico's pan-fried demonfish, Nanachi's ever-mysterious netherworld stew, and the soul-warming Rico soup. Honestly, if the Abyss had a fast food mascot, it'd be this guy. Hamashirama. The Hamashirama is one of the creatures drifting through the Abyss's 5th layer. These things float around in big groups, just barely moving, like the water itself is doing most of the work. In their element, they've got this rounded, puffed-up shape that makes them look calm and harmless. But the second they're pulled out of the water, that shape just falls apart. What's left is something limp, alien-looking, and not at all pretty. Still, Hamashirama knows how to survive. They feed on what's ever left behind. Dead fish, scraps, anything that drifts too long. Every bit of their anatomy is crammed into their oversized heads, and when something gets too close, they spit out a thick jet of mucus laced with paralytic toxins. It's not just to escape either. They use their paralyzed target as a moving shield and float behind it like it's part of their plan. The weirdest part is that they don't seem bothered by the Abyss's curse at all. While humans struggle just to stay sane, Hamashirama glides through the sea of corpses just like it's another day. They've got their own way of sensing the world. No eyes, no ears, at least not anything that we recognize. And while they move with eerie grace underwater, they don't last long once they're out. In the open air, they pretty much fall apart and die within minutes. Even with all that, people still hunt them. Their meat is considered a rare treat. Tender, light, and best eaten raw in a style reminiscent of sushi. Their skin's tough enough to be used as a makeshift plate, which some delvers actually do. Just be warned though, their organs are loaded with toxins. One wrong cut and you're not getting back up. So yeah, if you're thinking of trying some, maybe let someone else do the cleaning first. Hammerbeak. The Hammerbeak is a feisty avian species whose range spans from the sunlit surface of Earth all the way down to the treacherous 4th layer of the Abyss. Even from the safety of a telescope in town, these birds can often be spotted soaring in flocks across the shallow depths. Their movements sharp, aggressive, and oddly mesmerizing. Compact in size, but not in attitude, Hammerbeaks are drawn to anything that glitters. Their nests glint with scavenged trinkets, including tiny hoards of shiny stones, bits of metal, or even wayward delver gear. But beneath their magpie-like habits lies their true hallmark, a rock-solid beak fused directly to the skull, a built-in battering ram that doubles as both a weapon and a tool. In the wild, Hammerbeaks don't hunt alone, they swarm. Flocks of them will relentlessly dive-bomb any perceived threat, and if one of their own is injured or killed, the entire group retaliates with unwavering fury. Even apex predators like the crimson Splitjaw can find themselves under siege if wounded. These birds are opportunists, as they're swift to exploit any weakness, no matter how large the opponent. Their aggression isn't limited to other species. Males competing for dominance engage in brutal headbutting duels, ramming their skulls together with such force that the impact often sends up literal sparks. Despite all the ruckus, Hammerbeaks aren't especially dangerous to prepared delvers. Their size is modest, and beyond the hardened beak, they lack significant offensive tools. But where they fall short in menace, they more than make up for in utility. Their meat is flavorful and nourishing, and their eggs are a prized component of Nanachi's legendary Netherworld stew. And even in death, a Hammerbeak keeps on giving. The beak-skull combo can be repurposed into a flint, a makeshift pot, or even a food container. Female Hammerbeaks have slightly less developed beaks, but their feathers burn slow and hot, which can serve as excellent live coals in a pinch. Among their ranks exists a formidable cousin, the giant Hammerbeak, which is larger, sturdier, and marked with distinctive head patterns. These subspecies carry an even tougher skull and a greater appetite for confrontation.
And really quick, if you enjoy these no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point videos covering all sorts of anime topics, then make sure to like this video and subscribe. But anyway.
Inbyos. Inbyos are creepy fast primates that live up in the trees of the abyss's second layer, darting through the canopy like they were made for it. Covered in dark, shaggy fur, with arms and fingers way longer than they should be, they move so smoothly it's almost unnatural. Their faces, hands, and feet are bare, with leathery skin and glowing red eyes that cut right through the mist. Someone spotting one is rare, but getting spotted by one is bad news. They stick together in tight groups and don't take kindly to uninvited guests. Step into their territory and you'll know it. Fast. The air fills with flying debris, sticks, rocks, whatever they can grab. It's not random chaos either. It's a warning. Ignore it and suddenly you've got a whole group of them chasing you through the trees like a pack of angry shadows. They don't go straight for the kill, but they don't stop either. They'll harass and hound until you're gone or unable to keep running. For all their wild behavior, there's something sharp going on behind those glowing eyes. Inbyos know their turf like the back of their hand. They move as one, cover each other's flanks, and fight like they've done it 100 times before. It's all instinct mixed with just enough awareness to make them dangerous. They're not the worst threat the Abyss has to offer, not even close. But they are a perfect reminder that danger doesn't always come with fangs or poison. Silkfang. The Silkfang is a quiet killer with a serious talent for waiting. Found occasionally in the first layer, it stakes out a small dome-shaped zone, about 10 meters across, and turns it into a death trap without a single thread of web. Instead, it lines the edges with nearly invisible feelers. Then, sticky strands that sit in silence until something unlucky brushes past them. That's when it happens. The second those threads are triggered, the Silkfang snaps into action. Inside its dome, it moves with lightning speed and zips from one point to the next, like it's barely touching the ground. It can spit venom that paralyzes on contact, and if that doesn't stop you, its snout delivers a sting that definitely will. The whole thing is over before most creatures realize they stepped into danger, but if the target somehow makes it outside that circle, it's off the hook. The Silkfang never follows. Once the moment's gone, it just climbs back to the top of its dome and waits until the next misstep sets it off again. It doesn't waste energy. It doesn't care. It just waits, perfectly still, for the next thing to get too close. There's talk among delvers about whether Silkfangs are edible, but no one seems too eager to find out. Between the venom, the spiked armor, and the general sense of probably not worth the risk, it's a creature most choose to avoid, unless they're starving and have a death wish. Amakagame. Amakagame are bloated, fleshy traps that cling to the cave walls of the third layer, like they've grown straight out of the rock. At first glance, they barely even look alive. Just saggy, gland-covered lumps with pulsing veins and too much texture in all the wrong places. But underneath that gross exterior is a surprisingly clever predator that doesn't need to move, chase, or even see well to get what it wants. They work like living stomachs. Their thin, almost see-through skin barely holds in the acidic soup sloshing around inside. A single opening at the top puffs out a sweet, fruity smell, almost exactly like the Baracocha fruit. The snack Neritantan can't resist. When something comes close for a sniff, the Amakagame just opens up and swallows it whole. No sudden movements, no violence, just a slow, muscle-ringed mouth sucking dinner straight in. They've got tiny beady eyes scattered around their surface, but they don't do much, and when they're startled, they let out this slow groaning noise that sounds like the entire cave is fed up with its existing. But what makes them really messed up is the setup they've got going with the local ecosystem. Their waste comes out through these weird root-like tendrils that anchor them in place and help fruit-bearing plants grow nearby, plants that just happen to produce the same fruit smell they mimic. So not are they only tricking the Neritantan with fake food, they're also growing the real stuff nearby to keep them coming back. It's an organic bait and snack loop, and the Amakagame sits at the center of it, like a lazy, oozing landlord. While they haven't made a full appearance in the manga, a sketch map drawn by Riko's group confirms their strange presence. Corpse Weeper. Corpse Weepers are a horrifying contradiction, the kind of creature that seems plucked from a nightmare but behaves with a disturbing level of empathy, at least towards their own. These massive carnivorous birds dominate the skies of the brutal second layer, and while their name sounds ominous, their origin is worse. They mimic the cries of their dying prey to lure others into ambush. If one captures a human, or even another socially complex creature, like a Hammerbeak, it will listen, learn, and repeat their cries with frightening precision. The mimicry is used to bait others into their colony, where they're swiftly captured, dismembered, and devoured. It's a hunting method so intelligent, it feels cruel. And yet, for all their savage hunting tactics, corpse weavers are surprisingly nurturing. They live in tight-knit colonies, raise chicks communally, and work together to feed the young. Before the chicks can fly, adult birds will carry live prey back to their nest to be torn apart for the next generation's meals. With wingspans that can exceed 10 meters and muscle-packed bodies capable of lifting adult humans, these birds are not to be trifled with. Their unevenly sized eyes grant them remarkable spatial awareness, perfect for tracking threats or prey from any angle. They lack a beak, but compensate with long muscular tongues that rip, scoop, and slurp meat from the bones with grim efficiency. Despite their appearance, corpse weavers can be tamed if raised from chicks. Those raised among humans can become eerily affectionate, and while their meat smells awful when cooked, its taste is considered exquisite by delvers willing to endure the stench. During breeding season, they become even more coordinated, as they drive prey towards the colony in a terrifying display of communal hunting. Ottobas. Ottobas are primeval beasts with the kind of presence that make the jungle hold its breath. These hulking amphibians once ruled rivers in their original homeland, which earned them the title King of Jungle Rivers. But their kingdom now lies deep within the second layer of the abyss, where the waters around the inverted forest have become their reluctant domain. Originally outsiders, Ottobas crashed into the ecosystem of the abyss like heavyweights in a bare-knuckle brawl. But the local predators weren't keen on sharing territory, and after repeated clashes, the Ottobas were forced into retreat, pushed towards the inner fringes of the inverted forest, where the force field is weaker and fewer threats loom. In the process, they evolved, and not just in bite-sized increments. Generations spent adapting to this merciless environment have made them massive and easily capable of swallowing a full-grown human in one gulp. While they're omnivorous and won't always chase you down like a hungry crimson Splitjaw, getting too close is still a terrible idea. Their thick hides and layers of insulating fat make them poor dining material under normal circumstances. But with enough patience and culinary expertise, one Ottoba can feed about 200 people. They're walking food stockpiles, but good luck taking one down without becoming the appetizer. Sakawatari. Sakawatari is the kind of creature that feels too massive, too surreal to be real. Yet, there it is, cutting across the skyline like it owns the whole thing. For centuries, it lived in old stories and ancient murals, whispered about but never confirmed. Then, one day, it showed up near the surface, and the myth became fact. Its overwhelming body stretches over 50 meters in length. Its wings shimmer with deep emerald tones, Its belly gleams white, and long ribbons of blue feathers trail behind as it moves. Its eyes are hidden behind sleek black membranes, giving it a look that's impossible to read. It doesn't flap around aimlessly either. One powerful twist of its wings, and it spirals upward in a blur, climbing hundreds of meters in a single motion. Its monstrous claws are over a meter long and built for power. It doesn't hunt often, but when it does, it's swift and absolute. Everything about the Sakawatari is fine-tuned for survival, including a special membrane that lets it read and ride the force field. That's what makes it immune to the curse of the abyss, and lets it soar through layers that would destroy anything else alive. No one's found where it nests, but is believed to be deep, far below the 7th layer. And yet, every so often, it surfaces to hunt. When it does, it brings with it a terrifying taste of the deepest unknown, like the abyss itself is reaching out. Some say the Sakawatari appears only once every 2,000 years, and when it does, the world shifts. Maybe it's a sign, maybe it's a warning. Either way, when the sky fills with those green wings and trailing feathers, it's hard not to feel like something big is about to happen. Crimson Splitjaw. The Crimson Splitjaw is a true horror of the 3rd layer. It's a massive scarlet serpent with no legs, no mercy, and absolutely no chill. This elongated predator slithers through the steep cliffs like a blood-red missile, using its hood to catch air currents and glide. Rarely, one might drift into the upper layers on a snack run, but don't count on seeing one unless you're deep in the abyss, and probably regretting it. Its face is a horror show of evolutionary leftovers, stubby eyes it barely uses, wart-like nodules clinging to its jaws, and 3 black dots around its mouth that act like sensors that could detect the mysterious force field that blankets the abyss. They have a weird compulsion to swallow minerals and artifacts whole, possibly for nutrition, possibly to toughen up their gizzards, or maybe just because they're shiny. One thing's for sure, crack open its stomach and you might hit the jackpot, or just get a treasure-flavored pile of monster poop. The Crimson Splitjaw are some of the most aggressive apex predators in the 3rd layer and will go after any delver in an instant, even without provocation. Their meat is technically edible, but unless you're into flavor profiles like burnt rubber and regret, you'll probably want to pass. In the manga, a particular Splitjaw turned a crashed ancient ship into its home, a grim reminder that anything left unattended in the abyss will eventually become something's lair. Though the anime decided to switch it up with a Madokajack instead. Madokajack. Madokajack is equal parts reptile, insect, and uninvited nightmare, making it another charming resident of the 3rd layer. These creatures come equipped with gliding membranes on their limbs, allowing them to soar between the cliffs of the Great Fault like freaky flying squirrels from hell. Their eyes stick out on stalks, their jaws are massive pincers, and their whole look screams bad evolutionary decisions that somehow worked. Madokajacks are social in the grossest way possible. They drill into the cliffside walls to create massive communal nests, dens of filth teeming with eggshells, bones, and undeniable refuse. Think of them as hoarder bugs in the abyss, except they're big enough to eat you and live where gravity wants you dead. Rico and Red got a first-hand whiff of their lifestyle after stumbling into one of these unhygienic hellholes. Pro tip, if it smells like death and disappointment, it's probably a Madokajack's nest. Orb Piercer. The Orb Piercer is a beast in the twisted ecology of the 4th layer. This creature looks like someone gave a porcupine a medieval makeover in a serious grudge. Covered in venom-dripping spines, sharp enough to slice through metal like soggy paper, this creature is basically a death sentence wrapped in fur and needles. It munches on algae growing on flat creepers, but despite its herbivorous diet, the Orb Piercer has claimed more delver lives than most predators in the abyss. And it's not hard to see why. The thing guards its territory like an overzealous landlord. Every inch of a 1 kilometer stretch of flat creepers belongs to it, and trespassers don't get warnings. They get impaled instantly. Its most terrifying trick is that it can feel the force field that permeates the abyss and senses the conscious flow of life around it. This gives it an almost supernatural ability to predict movements before they happen. Think precognition built for violence. For most delvers, that means a one-way ticket to Limblast City, if they're lucky. Over 100 black whistles are said to have fallen victim to a single specimen, and when threatened, it sheds its toxic needles to create a painful, panic diversion while it slips away. That'd be frustrating if you were trying to kill it, except the thing is nearly unkillable. Not because it's immortal, but because it's smart, fast, and always one step ahead. You can't stab what already saw your stab coming 10 seconds ago. They're not common, thankfully. Reg and Rico only encountered one, but that's enough. One is definitely enough. But even the most OP beast has its weakness. Its built-in sensors themselves are its Achilles heel. Touch them and the creature is overwhelmed with pain and confusion. Sounds like an opening, right? Except you'll never get close enough to exploit it. By the time you think to strike, it's already reacting to your hesitation. And then there's the venom. Slow to kill, but agonizing. It causes severe swelling, systemic weakening, and forces desperate choices like amputation. The only known antidote was created by Nanachi while trying to find a merciful way to end many suffering. Amaranthine Deceptor. The Amaranthine Deceptor is one of the Abyss's most insidious creations, a lethal masquerade artist born in the forsaken depths of the 6th layer. For a long time, these deceptive insects were little more than whispers in White Whistle's journals, or ghost notes scribbled by survivors too traumatized to describe them in full. It wasn't until the recovery of Liza the Annihilator's field sketches and observations that the full horror began to unfold. Now, they're not just a 6th layer anomaly. These creatures have been spotted slithering their way up the strata of the abyss with alarming frequency. Their new favorite haunt is the Garden of the Flowers of Resilience in the 4th layer. Their wings are nature's cruel joke, as near-perfect replica of eternal fortunes, the delicate flowers that symbolize the cycle of life in the abyss. So think camouflage with a kill switch. Delvers drawn to the beauty of the garden filled with eternal fortunes don't even realize they're walking into an ambush. The Amaranthine Deceptor lies in wait, motionless, blending so thoroughly among the flowers that not even creatures attuned to the force field's flow can sense them. The moment someone gets too close, they strike. A quick sting, and it's already over. The victim becomes a nursery after the larvae take root inside their body, feasting slowly and silently. Once the brain is compromised, the host becomes a shambling larder that is kept alive only to be consumed from within. Occasionally, adult deceptors will crawl into the host's mouth just to feed them and extend their shelf life of their food supply by keeping the meat fresh. Individually, they're not as physically overwhelming as heavy hitters like Orb Piercers, but they don't need to be. Their real power lies in deception and infiltration. Delvers often don't even know that they've been infected until it's far too late to act. By the time symptoms surface, the infestation is already well underway. That quiet, insidious approach is exactly why these creatures have claimed so many lives with so little resistance. Worse still, they're not afraid to swarm. When a stronger target presents itself, Amaranthine Deceptors have been known to abandon their colonies in waves. Needless to say, in large numbers, they match the threat level of extraordinary creatures. Oddly enough, adult specimens are said to be edible though. The Stingerhead is the undisputed apex predator of the 5th layer sandstone hellscape, an armored nightmare with 7 tails, each brimming with a venom so potent it doesn't just kill, it dissolves. Flesh, bone, nerves, everything melts in seconds under the chemical barrage of these monstrous scorpion-like beasts. Towering at over 2 meters tall, these predators are living weapons built for brutality. First documented by Liza the Annihilator herself, the Stingerhead was quickly recognized as a creature you avoid at all costs. Not because it's unbeatable, an experienced delver can take one down, but because they almost never come alone. These creatures move in colonies and coordinate like a hive of murder machines. One encounter can turn into a massacre within seconds if you're not watching the dunes and the tails behind every tail. And there's no reward for bravery here. The meat isn't edible, tainted by venom, and whatever gut-melting bile sloshes around their bony insides. Territory warnings are subtle, but unmistakable to the trained nose. The air around their nests reeks of burnt, dried vomit. That stomach-churning stench, coupled with a strange discoloration of the sandstone, bleached and etched by acid bloodbaths, marks a no-go zone. They feed on their prey with a grotesque precision, and entrails are their main course. Victims are melted from the inside, and their liquefied organs are slurped up like noodles. Turbinid Dragon. The Turbinid Dragon is a biological juggernaut that stalks the nightmare expanse of the 6th layer, where evolution stops asking permission and starts getting creative. Imagine a dinosaur-sized horse. If horses were armored siege engines with 6 venom-tipped legs, a face full of tusks, and a portable doomsday device strapped to their backs. Yeah, that's the Turbinid Dragon. First chronicled in Lies of the Annihilator's grim travelogues, these creatures are walking, stomping death sentences. Their reptilian scales, layered like poisonous armor, don't just protect them, they explode when struck, rupturing with toxins potent enough to corrupt anything unfortunate enough to land a hit. They don't shy away from combat either. Male Terminid dragons fight over territory and crash into one another like mountains with legs in thunderous displays of raw power. But it's not all close combat either. These beasts can spit hell from a distance. A sudden burst from its snout-like appendage launches a nasty mix of rock fragments and corrosive liquid that explodes on contact. The resulting shockwave is a scalding chaos that can melt through stone and sear the surrounding landscape. Terminid dragons navigate the layer with terrifying freedom and are completely unaffected by the curse of the abyss. They float, leap, stomp, and impale with precision, guided by an uncanny intuition that borders on precognition. Their long legs can skewer prey so precisely and with such force that even Reg's metal arm wasn't immune. That alone puts them in the elite tier of the abyssal monstrosities. Even while suffering organ damage, a Terminid dragon just keeps going. Their talons can harden on impact like they're forged from the earth itself, giving each strike the weight of a collapsing tower. These spiraled snail-like structures spouting from their backs writhes with independent movement, suggesting that there's more going on than muscle and instinct. Some theories suggest the rear appendages might be juvenile dragons still developing, tucked away like deadly stowaways waiting to emerge. And though Terminid dragons die eventually, their infamous poison-filled scales only deactivate after death, making every encounter a game of timing and not getting obliterated. One Terminid dragon is enough to threaten a team of white whistles. A swarm? Thankfully nobody's lived long enough to report one. Mysterious Beast. The mysterious beast of the 7th layer is less a creature and more a walking fever dream stitched into the living world, with no official name and few confirmed sightings. It is spoken of only in whispers among white whistles. Its massive amorphous form is draped in folds that allow it to fly through the air using the force field while completely unbound by gravity or the curse of the abyss. It's not just rare, it's nearly godlike in the context of the abyss. Tentacles lined with rows upon rows of jagged fangs allow this monstrosity to devour humans whole, without the need to chew. But the most chilling aspect is that it scrambles the target's senses. This is a creature that bends perception and masks its presence by hijacking the ability to feel the force field. That's how it cloaks itself from even the most instinctively attuned beings. Reg couldn't spell Nanachi, Hail Hex and Hello Abyss were trapped in illusions, all because of the beast's ability to manipulate their senses. And just when you think you've landed a fatal blow, it regenerates rapidly. Wounds that should kill are shrugged off like bruises, and there's no visible end to its endurance. Any creature that can roam freely in the 7th layer, undeterred by the curse, cloaked in deception, and immune to death, earns an extraordinary danger level. But for the mysterious beast, that feels like an understatement. It's less a predator and more a phantom, one that devours bodies in certainty. Dread-owle. Dread-owls are creepy bird things that hang out in the 6th layer, and they look like someone tried to mash together an owl, a bear, and a bunch of hooks. They're all fuzzy and round, with sacs bulging out of their backs, huge beady eyes, and claws that look like they belong in a horror movie. But their biggest flex is that they can basically erase your scent from the force field. Every living thing leaves behind this weird invisible signature that lets predators track you, right? Well, dread-owls spray you with their gross body juice, and bam, you vanish off the abyss's radar. Even your stray hair or sweat gets cloaked, and that effect doesn't go away, even if the dread-owl bites the dust. Faputa figured this trick out just by observing them, and started using their fluid to make stealth charms out of hair. Hers, Riko's, and Nanachi's. Urikori. Urikori stalks the skies of the 2nd layer's Forest of Temptation, gliding through the humid air like twisted jungle birds. With patchy, multicolored fur and a waddle dangling from their chins, they look like someone tossed a bunch of jungle birds, bugs, and a rooster into a blender. They might look goofy at first glance, until you see what they're eating. These scavengers are usually spotted poking around disaster sites, using their long tongues to strip the flesh from bones in a manner that would put vultures to shame. When grounded, they knuckle walk like gorillas, with their spines bristling yellow down the back and antennae twitching in constant search of their next unlucky meal. They're like the abyss's own cleanup crew, swooping in after disaster and picking the bones clean. Literally. Emperor Shell. Emperor Shell is a towering reptile that makes its home in the brutal environment of the 6th layer, around 14,000 meters deep, right where the abyss starts raining molten iron like it's just another Tuesday. Adaptation is the name of the game here, and the Emperor Shell plays it well. From the moment it hatches, it carries its eggshell like a living shield, using it to weather the flaming downpour and whatever else the layer throws its way. These creatures are known to be aggressive and territorial, but despite their temper, they're actually fully edible. The juvenile ones in particular are said to be incredibly tasty, and don't require much in the way of preparation. According to Liza the Annihilator, they grow continuously throughout their lifespan, which appears to be extremely long. She once encountered a specimen that stood at a staggering 30 meters tall. Even with her legendary combat skills, she couldn't take it down, and that encounter earned the creature its imperial title. Whether the giant version is still walking around or not is unknown, but its legacy and potential flavor remains a curiosity for future delvers. Fuzoshepu. Fuzoshepu is a creature that looks like a flying nightmare pulled from the deepest layers of the abyss. It first appears in the village of Irubru within the 6th layer of the abyss, where it drifts ominously through the air with a translucent gelatinous body and a head that resembles a mutated crustacean. Its organs are visible through its body, including one specifically adapted to sense the force field. While it appears to float freely, this creature is anything but harmless. Though lightweight, it's extremely agile and hostile, and doesn't hesitate to go after what it sees as prey. What makes it even more unsettling is the fact that it isn't just a single being, it's a hive. Each Fuzoshepu consists of nearly invisible males and a single visible queen that acts as the head. When the queen dies, the males disperse in search of a new one, and one among them will evolve into the next queen. Despite their airy structure, these hive creatures are capable of anchoring themselves to surface and putting up a fight against much larger foes. Their bizarre biology and group behavior makes them one of the more alien organisms discovered in the 6th layer. Hermit Rat. The hermit rat is a small but surprisingly resilient rodent that roams the crumbling urban ruins of the 6th layer. These creatures are marked by their curiosity and general lack of fear towards larger beings, though they're not exactly friendly. If threatened, they bite, and their bite packs more trouble than expected. Their teeth are uniquely structured to inflict wounds that are both painful and slow to heal. These same teeth allow them to carve out homes in all sorts of objects, from spiral ammonites to discarded delver helmets. Their choice of dwelling seems to serve a dual purpose: shelter and camouflage. In an environment teeming with predators, blending in with leftover relics might just be the smartest move a creature of their size can make. Though not particularly dangerous on their own, the presence is a reminder that even the smallest inhabitants of the abyss have had to adapt in strange and sometimes unsettling ways. Pseudo-water. Pseudo-water is the abyss's cruelest mirage. Found in the deadly depths of the 6th layer, this parasite masquerades as crystal clear drinking water, luring in the desperate and dehydrated with a false promise of relief. The moment it's swallowed, the host feels temporarily revitalized, right before everything goes horribly, irreversibly wrong. What follows is a nightmarish transformation, explosive diarrhea, bodily melting, and eventually a final state where the host's corpse hardens into something resembling a lead statue from hell. But that's just the beginning. Pseudo-water lays invisible eggs in the victim's gut, which is eventually excreted and left near the dying body. Once the host dies and the body turns into a lump of deformed flesh, the eggs hatch and the next generation moves in, using the remains as a mangled container for their watery disguise. No two infections look the same, but the end is always ugly. These parasitic pools can grow large enough to fill entire ponds, and they likely breed in a body of still water, like ponds, which explains why Rico and her friends were able to avoid them by using streams. Moral lesson: don't drink from still water. Ever. Irumui's children. Irumui's children are some of the most heartbreaking beings to come out of the abyss. They're born after Irumui merges with the Cradle of Desire in the 6th layer, which makes them different from the usual Nerahate at Idle Front, that were the result of Bondrewd's cruel experiments. They're more like living reflections of a desperate wish, twisted into life by an artifact that gives you what you want, but not how you want it. The infertile Irumui, for instance, wished to bear children, and the Cradle of Desire granted it in the most twisted ways. The bodies of her children are similar to hermit rats, with tiny feet, pointed ears, a hunched back, and no eyes, just a narrow slit where a face should be. They're also missing all the important stuff inside. No stomach, no way to eat, and no way to survive for long. So they die shortly after being born. And in the worst turn of events, they end up being used by the Ganja group both as food and medicine to treat pseudo-water infestation. Urumyui herself transformed until she reached her final form, where she could transform humans into Neritate. All the Ganja members, except Vueko, willingly walked inside her and were reborn. At this point, Urumyui had become the base of the village. After Urumyui completely transforms into the village of Uraburu, her last child, named Faputa, was born. Once someone chooses to give up their human form and enter the village, they're tied to it completely. There is no leaving. In return, though, they get something strangely beautiful. A new body shaped by their deepest desire, and the village itself offers protection, almost like a twisted kind of rebirth. Most of the Nerihate walking around Uraburu don't look remotely human. Their forms are wild, bizarre, and sometimes downright unsettling. Despite all the warping and reshaping, a surprising amount of their humanity sticks around. They still communicate, some through gestures and body language unique to the village, others even speaking in the language of the surface-dwelling delvers. And then there are beings like Ma and Joroimo, not transformed humans at all, but creatures born straight from the excess value floating around the Uraburu. Kazura Squid. Kazura squid are elusive creatures that make their first appearance as a cluster of spiky eggs embedded in the wall of the third layer, nearly 7,000 meters down. Once they hatch, they disappear from sight, only to be found later hiding in the shallow waters pool atop flat creepers in the fourth layer. It's a mystery whether they're dangerous or delicious. No one's been brave enough to find out yet. The only thing that's certain is that delvers have tried and failed to witness these squids lay their eggs. Their breeding grounds, dubbed flat creeper squid spawning grounds, remains just another abyssal riddle waiting to be solved. Sicklehorn. Sicklehorn might look like hulking gorilla beasts at first glance, but they're more bark than bite. These fur-covered creatures roam the sixth layer, with long muscular front limbs built for brute force and shorter hind legs that make their movements look oddly lopsided. Horn-like growths spout from their heads and back, and a wicked tusk juts out from their upper chests, giving them an intimidating appearance they don't quite live up to. Sicklehorn are known to be cowards, despite their strength, as they're quick to flee from real danger. They do, however, make for surprisingly good eating. Their meat reeks when cooked, but tastes far better than you would expect. According to a note from Liza, they also hide a strange organ near their heart that resembles a your worth, an artifact used to make white whistles. Mainastillum. Mainastillum, or Children of Change, are one of the Abyss's most peculiar mysteries. With only a single known specimen, Mania, most of what is known about the species comes from observing her. These small round mammals sport oversized feathered ears that let them glide, stubby legs, and horizontally slit pupils that give their faces an almost toad-like appearance. They seem friendly and highly social as they're capable of forming strong bonds with humans, if Mania is anything to go by. What's especially strange about Mainastillum is their incredibly flexible bodies. Their bones bend rather than break, allowing them to survive injuries that would turn most creatures into paste. In one instance, Mania was nearly crushed, only for her eye to pop out of its socket and her intestines to slip out, both quickly pushed back in as if nothing happened. And if that wasn't odd enough, their scent grants humans a brief heightened awareness of the force field, or what Rico and Prushka affectionately call fuzzy stuff. Whether Mainastillum exists naturally or yet another one of Bonjour's twisted creations remains up for debate. Mizuojack. Mizuojacks look like something between a frog and a bipedal toddler-sized salamander, and they somehow made peace with life in the toxic pockets of the sixth layer. They gather in clusters near geothermal vents, seemingly unbothered by the poisonous gas swirling around them. Their eggs, tough and spiral-shaped, are laid nearby, and apparently they're considered a delicacy by those bold, or hungry enough to grab them. Liza's note suggests that they're best eaten fresh, though fresh is relative when the hatchlings are already squirming mid-fry. Despite their twitchy last moments, the eggs are reportedly delicious, making them a rare prize in a layer where most things are trying to kill you rather than feed you. Urana Guapu. Urana Guapu is one of the Abyss's more bizarre residents, making its home upside down on the ceiling of the sixth layer, like some gothic chandelier from a nightmare zoo. With a body of a massive badger and a head flipped the wrong way round, it clings to the rock above, staring at the world below through inverted eyes. Its black and white fur bristles with a wild predatory edge, and each of its legs ends in 3 nasty hooked claws, perfect for clambering across surfaces no sane creature would dare approach. Instead of a normal tail, it sports 6 thin finger-like appendages that twitch and curl in perfect sync. But what really makes this beast unique is what's tucked near its heart. A strange organ with relic-like properties eerily similar to a your worth. Whatever it is, it's rare enough that even Liza saw fit to document it. And if something stands out in the 6th layer, that usually means it's either incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous. Rohana. Rohana may not be the flashiest creature in the Abyss, but they bring a strange beauty to the 2nd layer's cleaner water zones. These glowing aquatic insects drift just above the water's surface, and swarm in gentle waves like bioluminescent fireflies. Their soft purple glow signals both clean water and their delicate, peaceful nature. Rohana only thrive where the water is pure, acting as nature's own warning system. If they're gone, something far worse might have taken their place.